in this episode of On Two Wheels. If your wheelie lasts longer than 4 hours, see a doctor. This is KTM's new 1290 Super Duke in Qatar.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Two Wheels. Have you ever really wanted to ride a bike but not been able to? Yeah, I know what that feels like. I'm here in the doctor's office right now because I jacked at my shoulder and for the life of me, I can't figure out how. Yeah, no clue, but in any case, it sucks. Because in this episode, we have the opportunity to ride a really tremendous motorcycle. I'm talking about KTM's new 1290 Super Duke R. And a bike that hellaciously powerful, you are definitely gonna need two good arms to hold on. Good news is though, you only really need half a brain, which means we've got the perfect guy for the job.
I really hate that I'm lost right now after Ari just talked all that trash. But, you know what? I do agree with Ari on one of his points, which is that I am the right man for this job. I am qualified to tell you about the new Super Duke. Why? Because I spent about 10,000 miles in the saddle of the previous generation 1290 Super Duke. So when it comes to the 2017 bike, I do think, aside from my two good arms, thank you very much, that I'm in a great position to talk about what's new and what's relevant on this fresh 2017 1290 Super Duke R. So let's get right into it, shall we? Okay, first of all, we got that big beloved engine, that 1300cc 75-degree V-twin. That engine won a lot of hearts when it came out in 2014, and it is still largely the same, although KTM has updated it. Got titanium intake valves now, which allowed KTM to raise the rev ceiling about 500 RPM, and KTM said they get an extra 4 horsepower out of this engine, which isn't a whole lot, but it's something, and frankly, it didn't need it in the first place, so kudos to them for that. The electronics have also been updated. You got your same ride modes, your sport, street, and rain, with the same traction control parameters, as well as lean angle ABS, which the 2016 model had. But now there's this track mode, which is pretty cool. Obviously not for putting around a city like this, but you get 9 levels of adjustability, and there's the quick shifter, which works up and down, and it is pretty pleasing. This is technology that's been around on other European counterparts to the Super Duke, and KTM went ahead and matched it, and they did a fine job. It works great. From the cockpit, some things are definitely notable and noticeable. First of all, you got your TFT dash, which does a nifty little trick where it's a white background during the day and a black background at night. It also has a Bluetooth function, so you can hook up your phone, and it'll probably balance your checkbook and call your mother-in-law if that's what you wanted to do also. The handlebar is also wider by about 20 millimeters, and it's a shade lower, which contributes to a slightly sportier riding position, which is fine by me because I'm tall, and even I could recognize that the previous generation Super Duke could stand to be a little bit more aggressive even. So KTM went ahead and did that. One thing you'll notice from the cockpit, but you can't really see all that well, is that wicked weird headlight that looks like it took a hatchet to the forehead. It is very interesting looking, very KTM. It's a pretty iconic piece of this bike, and it'd probably go down in history as one of your more interesting headlight designs. And there's more styling too. Different colors. You got orange wheels now. You got these white side panels on the white bike, and they removed some of the cowling, so the rear subframe is exposed now because trellis frames are neat, and why not look at them? And what you might be thinking right about now is that, man, Zach, that's a lot of stuff they added to the Super Duke. They changed the engine, they changed the styling, they gave it a new dash, they gave it cruise control, it's got keyless, it's got a quick shifter. That is a lot of stuff. And if you're thinking they're gonna charge more money for it, you're also right. They are charging more money for it. But I think we should really not get too lost in the minutiae here, all these little details about the Super Duke, because I'd like to step back for just a minute and take a look at the big picture. The Super Duke's a bit like Doha, come to think of it. It's glitz, it's glam, it's fancy and opulent, and it's more refined than it's ever been, which we learned riding it in and around the city. It's a tremendously good motorcycle, start to finish. It's easy to use, it's comfortable, it feels lighter than it actually is. It makes a statement in a big way. It's an excellent motorcycle if you want to ride it every day, every weekend, every month, but it's also $18,000. That's a lot of money to charge for a bike that just cruises around a city easy as you please. And frankly, the Super Duke isn't just that, right? It has a huge engine that produces a fantastic amount of horsepower. It is a performance flagship as much as a luxury flagship. So here's the thing. You're in Doha, you got your Super Duke, and you just need to go 150 miles an hour. First of all, well done you. Second of all, good news, because there's a rustic facility just up the road that should do the trick.
Of course, Qatar does rustic a little differently than the rest of the world. This is the Losail International Circuit, home of World Superbike, MotoGP, and the perfect testing ground for the Super Duke. The big changes that help the Super Duke at the racetrack are the sportier handlebar, the quick shifter, and that dedicated track riding mode. And if you get the chance to ride this bike around a racetrack, you are going to agree there's only one way to describe how well it works.
Oh my God. That's 265 kilometers an hour. Don't tell mom. Basically, that's how fast that is.
Yeah, fine. Pretty much any bike would be fun on this racetrack. But it's important to remember that KTM is not alone in this category. And even though the Super Duke is still the most comfortable, any bike that tries to do everything eventually has to compromise.
In some ways, the Super Duke does still feel like a street bike. But let's keep in mind that this bike is competing with bikes like BMW's S1000R and Aprilia's Tuono. And those bikes you can take to a track and frickin' fly. So KTM kind of recognized that, right? They had to know that that was going to be something they needed to focus on. And I think they did a pretty bang-up job. It doesn't have the dynamic suspension of the BMW or the stiff suspension of the Tuono, so it is a little bit soggier on the racetrack, but it is still fun.
Riding the Super Duke into the night and under the iconic lights of Losail was the perfect way to wrap up our epic first ride on the Super Duke 2.0. It almost feels like looking into the future of motorcycling. To ride through a city, down a freeway, and around a MotoGP track, all of that without the bike even breaking a sweat.
Okay, you guys, I rode this bike around a city. I rode it around a racetrack. I experienced everything I can experience. I've told you everything I can. I don't know what else I can do for you. I didn't end up in Middle Eastern prison. I don't think I embarrassed my family too much. You can almost hear the crowd cheering me on.
Go Zack. Yeah, Zack's just, he's the best, right? Is he? No? Okay, well, not a lot of people agree that he's the best, I guess. But I think we can agree on one thing, that the Super Duke is a better motorcycle. We've ridden it in a city, it was better. We rode it on the freeway, basically, it was better. We rode it on a racetrack, it's better. It's more sophisticated, it's more motorcycle. It is more money, but it's not surprising considering how great KTM has gotten at building motorcycles. So I hope if you can tell your friends one thing from this episode, it's that the KTM 1290 Super Duke R is improved. And I also hope that you will tell them to watch On Two Wheels, where they can learn such tidbits themselves. I hope you guys enjoyed this trip, and we will catch you next time on Two Wheels. I gotta go home now, I guess.